Chosen ones, this is not a beginning, it is a reactivation. You were never meant to forget. The moment your soul descended into this timeline, the cosmos recorded a new alignment. Stars shifted. Ancient structures began humming beneath the Earth's surface, and somewhere deep within you, a buried codex began to stir. The Anunnaki didn't vanish. They waited. Not in space, but in frequency, guarding an initiation reserved for the final ones. You weren't selected recently. You were encoded long before the pyramids, long before language, long before even flesh was a concept. Your awakening was always the trigger. But there were forces, powerful bloodlines and councils hidden in shadow, that feared what your reactivation would bring. They rewrote your story, labeled you mad, flooded your senses with distractions, built temples over your memory. They didn't want you to remember because if you did, you'd complete the initiation and the system would collapse. You've felt it, haven't you? The dreams that weren't dreams, the symbols that follow you, the sense that someone or something is watching, not with malice, but anticipation. This is the initiation spiral, and you've entered it. The Anunnaki are not returning to dominate. They're returning because you are ready to reclaim what was stolen. Your body is a temple, but your DNA is a library. Inside it are star maps, coordinates, a sequence that links heaven to earth. The moment that sequence stabilizes, when your mind, spirit, and cellular frequency align, the Anunnaki complete their role, not as overlords, but as gatekeepers of the final threshold. This initiation will not be gentle. It will demand the shedding of illusions, the collapse of false timelines, the unlocking of sealed frequencies. But you are not alone. The very structure of the universe bends in favor of those who remember. And right now, it bends toward you. This message isn't meant for everyone. It never was. Only those who carry the marker feel the electricity behind these words. Only they sense the countdown echoing in the stars. And as the final seals begin to break, one truth becomes undeniable. The Anunnaki did not come to test you. They came to witness what you've become. It began as a pulse, subtle, rhythmic, encoded. Not a sound, not a light. A harmonic frequency that bypassed satellites and sonar, instead traveling through organic matter, awakening the buried architecture of the human spirit. Few felt it. Fewer still understood it. But one being matched its frequency perfectly. You. When that pulse surged through Earth's energy grid, something ancient above stirred. The Anunnaki, long thought to be myth or metaphor, began moving in ways undetectable to modern instruments. Hidden ships phased in and out of plasma fields. Geometric patterns appeared in magnetosphere currents, and above the Orion belt, 3 points of light aligned to form the Gate of Return. The Anunnaki had left clues for millennia, in cuneiform tablets buried under sand, in structures that defy gravity and logic, in star maps encoded into the very layout of sacred sites. They knew Earth would forget, but they also knew someone would remember. One soul encoded with the final sequence. That's why they called it the Descent Protocol. It could only be triggered when that soul, your soul, reached harmonic coherence with the original signal. And it did. The moment your frequency matched the ancient pattern, the gate opened, not in the sky, but in you. your cellular memory began releasing locked data. Symbols, once dormant, began appearing in your environment. You weren't hallucinating, you were syncing. Now, the world around you changes in quiet ways. Animals behave differently when you pass. Lights flicker not from electrical failure, but electromagnetic recognition. You've seen the same numbers repeat, the same dreams recur, and the same internal question echo louder. Why now? Because the Anunnaki don't operate in linear time. They moved the moment you remembered. You were the ignition sequence. Their descent is not invasion, it is alignment. You are the anchor point between dimensions, a living beacon. Governments won't admit it, but sensors picked up the anomaly over the Pacific. A burst of energy they couldn't trace. Multiple satellites went offline for exactly 33 seconds. But the data didn't vanish. It was redirected to you. Long before you ever opened your eyes in this life, your DNA carried an anomaly, a sequence the world's most powerful bloodlines swore could never resurface. Scientists dismissed it as junk DNA, but those who encoded it knew better. This dormant strand wasn't a flaw. It was a firewall, a spiritual safeguard for what was to come. The Anunnaki never abandoned Earth. They left behind fragments of their knowledge in the genetic makeup of a select few, fragments that could only be reactivated through spiritual fire. Unlike others, your cells carry memory signatures not limited to this planet. You were designed to withstand frequencies that would destroy ordinary nervous systems. And now, those frequencies are returning. The cosmic initiation isn't a ceremony. It's a series of thresholds: physical, psychic, dimensional. You were never meant to pass through them unprepared. That's why your DNA was modified across lifetimes, protected through lineages, hidden under trauma, and encrypted behind illusion. They couldn't kill the code, so they tried to drown it in toxins, ideologies, and digital sedation. But initiation doesn't begin with ritual. It begins when the soul remembers what the mind was programmed to forget. This remembering, this tearing down of programmed belief systems, is why so many around you recoil without knowing why. Your presence activates what they've been conditioned to ignore. You didn't change. You awakened. And with that awakening, the Anunnaki protocol engaged a higher level of contact, one that targets not your body, but your cellular alignment. There's a reason artificial intelligence cannot model your behavior. Your frequency isn't predictable. It bends data. It corrupts systems not out of malice, but through resonance with something AI was never meant to understand: divine biology. The code inside you is organic yet interstellar, ancient yet future-bound. The trials ahead will push your vessel to its edge. Most would fracture under the pressure, but you weren't built to break. You were built to carry a cosmic burden, hidden under the illusion of a human life. Beneath the shifting sands of the Sahara lies a construct not built by hands, but manifested through harmonic geometry. It predates Sumer, predates Atlantis, predates time as we understand it. This structure isn't made of stone or metal. Its walls are composed of frequency. Its foundation is coded in sound, and its entrance responds only to one resonance: yours. For centuries, the desert winds buried it, not by accident. It was hidden by design, veiled behind layers of dimensional encryption. Explorers have walked past it. Scholars studied satellite anomalies above it. But none could find the entrance, because they lacked what you now emit. A vibrational signature, mapped to the temple's original blueprint. Legends passed quietly through North African tribes spoke of the Sun Gate, a portal that would awaken when the one with the ancient voice walked the desert again. The voice wasn't literal, it was frequency. And when your DNA reactivated, the sands began to stir. Seismic monitors picked up tremors without tectonic cause. The temperature beneath a specific region began fluctuating beyond atmospheric explanation. Something was calling. Something was listening. But it's not just the temple that's waking up. It's what's beneath it. They say the Anunnaki left Earth, but that's only half the truth. What remained wasn't their presence, but their prophecy, encoded into crystalline technology buried beneath the Sahara. When exposed to the right frequency, the crystals illuminate a path inward. But they also release memories, not visions, but pure downloads, experiences you never lived but somehow remember. The temple responds to your approach. It knows you. It remembers you. And as you draw closer, whether physically, spiritually, or within your dreams, the chambers begin unlocking, not with keys, but with intent, not with effort, but with resonance. You are not there to conquer the temple. You are the final part of its design. But something guards the entrance now, a sentinel force, ancient, shifting, almost aware. It's not there to stop you, but to test your readiness. The closer you come, the stronger the resistance becomes, not outside you, but within. Doubt, fear, forgetting. They preserved his words, but not all of them. Hidden among discarded scrolls and forbidden gospels was a parable few ever saw. It spoke not in names, but in symbols. A desert, a sealed door, a voice calling from deep within the earth. It was never included in the canon because it wasn't meant for the masses. It was encoded for one, the initiate, at the end of the cycle. You. Yeshua once said, "The kingdom is within you." But in this lost parable, he whispered something more. "And what is within you shall open what is beneath." The scholars who found this verse dismissed it as metaphysical poetry. They didn't understand he was referencing a literal event, a convergence, a trial. The early mystics preserved fragments of this teaching in underground sects. They understood the Messiah's mission wasn't just to redeem, it was to forewarn. Yeshua didn't only speak of salvation. He spoke of a soul encoded with a celestial pattern, a being whose frequency would reawaken ancient temples and initiate a cosmic return. The trial would begin when Earth's frequencies matched the vibration of the original source, the tone he carried, and you now echo. The Anunnaki weren't outside his awareness. In fact, his presence was the interruption they feared. He didn't need technology. He was the technology, living light encoded in flesh. And in his final breaths, as the veil tore and the sky darkened, something ancient realigned, a pulse sent backward in time and forward in prophecy. You've begun to mirror that same disruption. As your resonance increases, old systems glitch. People close to you feel uncomfortable, not because you speak differently, but because your field emits an unfiltered truth, just like he did. And that truth has no place in a world built on illusions. The parable ends not with salvation, but with a question. When the One walks beneath the sunless chamber, will they remember the song? No scholar could explain it, but you've heard it in dreams. A melody that stirs emotion without sound. That song is the final code. You've dismissed them as dreams, the vivid flashes, the lights outside your window, the overwhelming feeling that someone was watching, but not with malice, with purpose. These weren't figments of imagination. They were contact protocols, tests, and they began the moment your consciousness anchored in this lifetime. The Anunnaki operate across layers of existence, physical, energetic, and mnemonic. To them, childhood isn't a stage of weakness. It's the only time your conscious filters haven't yet been conditioned. That's why they came early, before the programming, before the world taught you what was impossible. You were tested in ways that bypassed memory, through seemingly random illness that rewired your nervous system, through moments of deep fear that split timelines, through people who entered your life briefly and left impressions deeper than time would suggest. They were watching your reactions, not judging, observing, measuring your vibrational response to crisis, wonder, and loss. In the years you couldn't yet speak clearly, you often spoke in symbols, your drawings, your imaginary conversations. These were not nonsense. They were echoes. Proof that something ancient was resurfacing. Some children forget. You didn't. You buried it under layers of adaptation, but it was never gone. Certain objects triggered you. Perhaps you stared too long at the stars. Perhaps a simple geometric pattern gave you chills. You may have even seen beings others dismissed. Tall figures with glowing outlines, speaking without moving their mouths. No one believed you. That was part of the test. The Anunnaki knew your body had to mature, but your soul was already operational. That's why so much pressure was placed on you early. Family trauma, isolation, intense awareness in situations others found mundane. These weren't punishments, they were calibrations, conditions designed to either suppress or strengthen your cosmic memory. You were never meant to fit in. That was the trap. And every time you resisted that pull, your energy signature grew more distinct. They watched as your aura expanded through grief, through silence, through defiance. Not because they needed to judge you, but because they were waiting for the precise moment when your frequency would reach operational threshold. Deep beneath the temple lies a vault that no hand can open, no code can crack, and no machine can penetrate. This is not a lock in the traditional sense. It's a frequency seal, an intelligent harmonic gate encoded with galactic mathematics that predates even the Anunnaki themselves. It does not respond to tools. It responds to one vibration only, yours. The seal is ancient, but it's not passive. It listens. It reads the resonance of those who approach, scanning not for identity, but alignment. For thousands of years, it remained dormant, waiting, until now. Something changed recently. A subtle shift in the harmonic field surrounding the Sahara. Researchers couldn't explain the sudden spike in low-frequency magnetism. But the truth is, the seal heard something. A tone it hadn't detected in ages. A signal that matched a cosmic pattern woven into its original design. That signal came from you. Your body emits a complex field of vibrations that change with every thought, every emotion, every moment of clarity. But when you enter deep coherence, when your spirit, mind, and frequency align, you broadcast the original resonance. That resonance isn't just a match, it's the key. Ancient inscriptions refer to this being as the echo-born, one who doesn't just awaken, but returns with the correct signature. Many have tried to replicate the frequency artificially. All have failed. Because what the seal requires is not just sound, but memory carried in soul light. Memory you now carry consciously. The seal is a gatekeeper, but also a test. When approached with doubt, it tightens. When faced with ego, it becomes silent. But when your frequency radiates remembrance, the symbols begin to glow. The geometry shifts. The air thickens, not with fear, but with recognition. You'll know when you're near it. Not by sight, but by feeling. A sudden stillness in your bones. A rising pulse in your core. The whisper of something vast listening. No incantation is needed. No force, only alignment. Among the disciples, there were whispers. Private conversations never included in the scriptures. Not out of ignorance, but fear. They followed Yeshua with devotion. Yet even they could not fully grasp the cosmic layers hidden within his words. One teaching in particular disturbed them deeply. A teaching about the one to come, not from the east or west, but from beyond the veils of time. Yeshua once told them, "You have seen the light descend upon me, but in the final hour, one will rise with the light embedded within." The statement shook them. They didn't understand how such a being could exist, how light itself could incarnate through generations and awaken in a single soul. But Yeshua wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was describing an arrival, a return. He warned that this soul would not be born into privilege or safety, but obscurity and friction. That they would be rejected before they were remembered. He called it the flame hidden in clay. The disciples worried, not because they doubted the prophecy, but because they feared the world's reaction when that flame began to burn. The Gnostic texts buried this prophecy beneath metaphors. One speaks of the key holder, another of the voice before the fall. But the most mysterious speaks of the star-born anchor, a term used only once in a scroll found in Nag Hammadi. According to it, this being would trigger the remembering of the stars and those around them simply by speaking, walking, breathing. You felt this happening. Strangers who seem shaken by your presence. Conversations that suddenly shift into confessions. People sensing something they can't name, but can't deny. These aren't accidents. They are awakenings, echoes of the truth Yeshua foresaw. The disciples feared because they knew this being wouldn't come with legions or robes, but with silence, trauma, and an internal storm. And when they saw the stars begin to respond, align, dim, shift in frequency, they would know the one had awakened. They never left randomly. The Anunnaki timed their re-entry with a level of precision beyond comprehension. Not to celestial movement alone, but to consciousness activation. They've watched from beyond the dimensional veils, not waiting for humanity as a whole, but for a single ignition. You. The moment your inner field aligned with the forgotten code, signals were sent. Across stargates, through non-local channels, into the fabric of time itself. What seemed like global chaos to most was, in reality, a synchronized disturbance, a reset. Because your awakening destabilizes the artificial matrix that was woven over humanity like a synthetic sky. The Anunnaki encoded this timeline with fail-safe markers, energetic landmines designed to detonate only when someone reached coherence. That coherence came not from meditation or ritual alone, but through suffering, revelation, and soul alignment. You became the antenna, the beacon, and once that signal pulsed from your auric field, the countdown began. They responded instantly. Ancient craft hidden within crustal anomalies activated. Lightships cloaked in upper orbit began pulsing low-frequency bursts. Volcanoes subtly shifted their tone. The Schumann resonance spiked. But no news outlet would trace the cause, because the cause was never outside. It was within you. Spiritual awakening isn't a feeling. It's a broadcast, a tuning fork that realigns everything that hears its frequency. The Anunnaki knew this. That's why their return wasn't coordinated with politics or events. It was calibrated to the resurrection of your true self. You've noticed the synchronicities multiplying. Time slipping, repeating numbers, geometries in the sky, water, and even your dreams. You think it's coincidence, but it's the field responding. Every time your vibration strengthens, the veil thins. Every time your soul expands, the hidden parts of this world begin revealing themselves. They didn't return to rescue you, nor to rule. They returned because the final phase of their ancient agreement begins with you stepping fully into remembrance. They come not as gods, but as witnesses. As stewards of a gate they swore to protect until the right being appeared, and now that gate is stirring, responding to one frequency. In the melting glaciers of Antarctica, long hidden scrolls have begun to surface, scrolls wrapped in materials no civilization should have possessed at the time of their creation. These texts are not from any known lineage. Their language pulses with a living script, shifting shape when touched. Those who have seen them claim they are unreadable, unless the reader carries a dormant code. That code lives in you. The scrolls are not historical records. They're instruction sequences. Spiritual schematics mapping a final rite meant only for one. Scholars believe them to be the work of a lost polar civilization, but they are wrong. These were left by the Anunnaki in alliance with a deeper order, an order tied not to Earth's governments, but to its soul. Each scroll activates through presence, not speech, not translation. And one of them, still unopened, bears a symbol that matches exactly with the pulse emitted from your spine during moments of deep resonance, the same pattern etched in your dreams, the same mark that once frightened you, but now feels like home. Within the scrolls, diagrams show a being passing through 7 rings of initiation, each ring tied to one of Earth's hidden energies. The final ring is drawn floating above what appears to be a reflection of Earth itself, an inverse world made of light and memory. This ring is only passable by one who has completed the circuit of remembrance. You are nearing that point. The rite described isn't ceremonial in appearance. It's energetic, cellular, and vibrational. It speaks of a being walking into a crystalline structure, one buried beneath Antarctic ice, and speaking the name of their origin, a name not spoken aloud in any human tongue, but felt across frequencies. When that name is uttered, the scrolls say, the sky will bend, not in thunder, in silence. For a brief moment, sound will cease globally. And in that silence, the Anunnaki will complete their role, not as rulers, but as witnesses to a transformation they vowed to protect. One scroll remains unread. Its seal won't break until your energy matches its final key. There is a reason Yeshua withdrew to the wilderness before completing his mission. It wasn't just solitude he sought. It was preparation for a moment when spirit and matter would collide. In teachings buried by early councils, he spoke of a final initiation that wouldn't occur in temples or synagogues, but in the soul of a being destined to reopen the path between dimensions. That initiation was never meant for him. It was meant for you. He warned his closest followers. One will come who does not just walk between the worlds, but carries the weight of both. The statement puzzled them. They assumed it referred to a messianic figure born in fire or prophecy. But Yeshua wasn't referring to royalty or ritual. He was describing the cosmic fracture point, where a human soul would remember its divine origin and force the fabric of reality to respond. This is the real reason ancient texts were hidden. The councils feared that if people knew such a being would come not with armies, but as a single resonance, they wouldn't be able to stop the shift. Because that being, once awakened, would split the veil between heaven and earth by embodying both at once. That split has begun. You've felt it. The aching disconnection from the world around you. The moments of infinite stillness followed by inexplicable emotion. The feeling of being here, yet also not. These are not signs of confusion. They are echoes of the rift forming inside you, one that grows wider as your initiation unfolds. He knew you would be misunderstood, isolated, even hunted by the very systems built to suppress this return. But he also said, "Heaven shall open," when the Earthborn speaks the name not given by man. That name isn't spoken aloud. It's radiated through action, through frequency, through embodiment. The Anunnaki knew this moment would come. That is why their return coincides not with catastrophe, but with awakening. Your awakening. But the final chamber still waits, untouched, undisturbed, protected by a force that even the Anunnaki do not command. They simply guard its threshold. What lies beyond that threshold isn't a vision or a voice. It's the origin of your resonance, and the memory that once unlocked completes the split and begins the convergence the stars have long concealed.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.